Hi, folks. I haven't made a video since this debacle of a debate, and already people have been talking about this for years. So if I look around, I think there's people driving back and forth. It's Sunday, and more activity here than on the weekends than in the weekday. I want to preface this video by saying that this is not a doom and gloom proclamation. I don't want to do that. I try to be realistic, but we are not victims unless we allow it. We can set ourselves up for survival from whatever's coming, protecting our families. I lived through the Jimmy Carter years and all the decade of aftermath after that, and my first house was 10.5% interest. We haven't quite got there yet, but everything else is much higher, percentage-wise, I think. But at least back then, men and women weren't confused about simple biological facts, and women and children were protected, not used and discarded like they are today. We have no real reverence left in this country for life. I know there are many exceptions, but I'm seeing a vast wave of people who have this attitude about killing babies. To them, babies are blobs of tissue to be thrown in a trash can. So we are a different country now. We don't value as a country traditional family values. Now, there are a vast number of people who still do, myself included. But we're really a different country now, and it's on display for in social media and the mainstream media. I'm gonna say a few things about the debate. That debacle we all witnessed. If we saw it, I watched the entire thing all the way through, and that's weird for me because I don't listen to Biden speak. It's painful to hear. Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, which I heard of during the Obama years. It has a tenet that you accuse your opponent, the other side, of what you yourself are guilty of. That's the strategy. The demon rats are masters of cheap fakes. They are the original masters of the cheap fake. They keep talking about, oh, the cheap fake, you're making Biden look like a caricature, blah, blah, blah. No, he made himself look like a caricature. But let me tell you, one of the most outrageous cheap fakes was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, when she stood next to a fence, shaking her fists, shaking the fence posts, and crying and sobbing over children in cages. And when you saw the rest of the video from a different angle, she was looking at a bare parking lot. The children in the cages were in the Obama years. That was Obama and Biden. So they were actually in Obama's reign, and Biden, he's fully aware of it, or he used to be fully aware of it. All the Democrats that we have are just, they're still spreading the old tired conspiracy theories that have long been disproven. I mean, like for years already have been disproven. But don't confuse them with the facts of the truth, because they can't handle that. So, there is at least, I would say, 4 or 5 old conspiracies and cheap fakes that Joe Biden brought up during the debate, all long ago disproven. I'm not going to go through them, but I counted 4 or 5. That's in addition to just the plain lies, like, well, what I inherited from the last guy, I cut immigration the illegal crossings by 40%. It's when actually the truth is, it's like the opposite and worse. So and then there was the other one that was just outrageous. No service members died on my watch. Oh, what? Yes, they did. And including the ones that you were personally responsible for, Joey, as your wife calls you, Joey. Many service members have died, especially those who lost their lives in Afghanistan when they were abandoned, when our own citizens were abandoned over there. Because he wanted to do something yesterday and make a splash. Oh, he made a splash all right, and people died because of that splash. He started with day one when he got in. The first day, he cut the Keystone Pipeline, and he lost thousands of jobs because of it. Thousands, maybe not. I don't know exactly the number of jobs now. So whoever worked for the Keystone Pipeline, axed, okay? He stopped the pipeline. He shut it down. We were energy independent. Now we're not. Probably the only truth that he actually told in the whole debate was that he beat Medicare. I know he misspoke some way. He was trying to fumble for words, and he found we beat Medicare. And I'm thinking that was probably the only true thing he said. Yeah, he did kill Medicare by selling out to the illegal aliens and putting them on a program that rightfully belongs to only U.S. citizens who've paid into it, who've paid into the system and worked. But, the Biden family, they're influence peddlers and money launderers. Sources say he refinanced his house 35 times. Do you know why you would do that 35 times? And interest rates were high during most of that. Do you know why? They were high during a lot of it, really high. You wouldn't want to have refinanced in that kind of market. But he refinanced about 35 times in order to take the cash out that you get for a refi and loan it to family members who then paid it back to him. That's money laundering. The only reason you do that is to hide wealth or money launder, which is the same thing basically. So I just don't get why Democrats, today's Democrats, they're such crooks, all of them. We don't want our president to be that incompetent. We don't want that. It's like, oh, you Republicans, you want that. I don't want that. I don't want what happened to all of us in the last 4 years. Do you? It's not. When wars go unchecked and other powers don't respect the leader of our country, we're in danger of World War III. Already he's gotten us in so many wars and so many conflicts, and he's gotten his little hands on all these cookie jars, and we didn't have any of that during the Trump administration. I hope to God we don't have that again soon. We have to hold on. Because, it's aside from all the stuff he's done and putting this country in severe danger, it's not a happy thing to witness elder abuse of that magnitude. Jill Biden is guilty of elder abuse. She is a narcissist, and she put him up there for her benefit. They got plenty out of that. You don't become a multimillionaire in Congress unless you're doing something illegal. But the people with dementia, and Joe Biden has dementia. There's no question he has dementia. I've watched it with my own mother for 2 years before she died. I know she had dementia. They don't just forget things and become slow. They actually hallucinate. They hallucinate things that are not there. They also can become aggressive and angry and confrontational and even violent. And they can't help it. Their brain is not functioning normally. And all of that is on display right now. The anger, the burst of anger, the irrational stuff, the not being able to remember words, the way he walks like a robot with his hands at his side and it looks lost, or he's slack-jawed. All that's on display right now in the White House with Joe Biden. And we're in serious danger of World War III in that condition. And the last thing we want to do is have him in control of the nuclear football and the button. because his brain is not functional. And he's being put up there like a show pony by his faithless wife. Excuse me. But really, having him up there is a danger to our very survival. And I don't mean political survival, I mean physical survival in this country, as a country. It's not only not a superpower anymore, you know, a position that slipped from our grasp is a devolving, and it's a republic. No, not a devolving democracy. I'm just amazed at people who haven't gotten through civics in elementary or middle school to understand what kind of government we have. Well, Ocasio-Cortez, you know, she was a bartender. Now she's a progressive lunatic. But she's worth, they say, almost $30 million. How do you go from being a bartender to in Congress and you become, with the salary they have, and you become a multimillionaire? So we're in serious danger as long as this administration is holding their position. Their positions of power as well as their delusions. There's nothing more than a huge con going on. It's the huge con of the century. It started putting Biden in office in the first place. And it's been running with the help of the lying mainstream media, who covered for him at every turn and endangered all of us. But now, after the debate, the chickens have come home to roost. And those who were never, as everybody like us, who was never fooled, looks on in horror. I mean, it's horrifying. This could be the very survival of our country. And our lives are at risk with this man in the White House. You know, if Joe's condition was the shock to everyone that people seem to be portraying, oh my God, what is happening? It's like, you have to be deaf, dumb, and blind not to see what happened for the last several years. Even back when Robin Williams was alive and joking, he called him bumbling Joe Biden. He was a joke back then, and here he is, president of our country with dementia. And a lot of hangers-on who are benefiting from that because they can control him. So, there's no way those on the inside didn't know this was the case. They knew. They conspired to hide the truth of his condition as long as they could. Now, see, that's a true conspiracy, not a theory. That's a true conspiracy. Not theory. Not theory. So after over a week of prep and rest, I'm told, and practice, and according to the former White House doctor, I think his name was Ronnie Jackson, he said they were spending that time trying to work up the perfect cocktail to keep him on his feet and lucid for 90 minutes. Well, it failed. And I'm telling you, since they now cannot even keep him any semblance of normal with drugs, that tells me his condition is tanking. It's becoming much worse. And it can simply no longer be helped by Big Pharma. Drugs are incapable of keeping a person with dementia on his feet when the body is shutting down, the brain is shutting down. When he's out of this position, his mind and body will completely shut down. It may be to the point of death. People with dementia actually die because their body shuts down and cannot remember how to tell the organs how to function. The brain cannot keep the organs functioning. That's why they die. So it kills you because the body literally forgets how to function. And the left has risked all of us, our very existence, by their duplicity for the last several years. The duplicity started way before Joe Biden got into office. But, you know, I was listening to all this stuff, and I've been watching all kinds of opinion pieces about this and watching the left do a 180-degree turn on, oh, he's cogent and he's competent and he's a sharp guy, to, oh my God, how do we get rid of him? This guy has lost his mind. I'm like, y'all, you knew that all along. Don't pretend you're surprised by this. Do not pretend you are surprised at all. You helped foment the con on all of us. But, I was listening to all this, and all of a sudden, you start feeling this sense of urgency just rising up. And I'm not sure why both sides seem so oblivious to all this, and to the seriousness of this, and it frustrates me. Of course, I can see they're blinded. They're spiritually blind. That said, with the insanity around us, and things we have no control over, in spite of seeing hundreds of stories of doom and despair swirling around the debate and the internet, I was feeling that. I was listening, and that was starting to rise up, and all of a sudden, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The peace, as the Bible calls it, the peace that passeth all understanding. And my final destination is secured after I leave this earth. When I leave this earth, who knows? I have no idea what that timing will be. I mean, I've already had a close brush with death 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, when the tree almost hit me in the face. And but I have faith in Jesus Christ. You can't just have faith. If your faith is not in something immutable, your faith is only wishful thinking. There's a big difference between faith and wishful thinking. And people seem to be, when they say, I have faith, what they're doing is really expressing wishful thinking. They have no faith in the one that is forever and can handle everything. So this thing, I have faith. No, you're wishful thinking with most people. But I have this deep abiding faith that sustains me during all this mess. Yes, I get frustrated, no question. I'm a human being still, no matter what. But, it's interesting to feel a sense of urgency and a sense of calm at the same time. It's kind of schizophrenic almost, but it's actually the way it's supposed to work. When you start getting upset, then you remember where your hope is, and then you calm down. And it really, it wasn't something I tried to do, it just happened, and I went, oh, okay. It's interesting. In a way, it's kind of freeing to know that with the things you can't control, and you just have to surrender it, because you have absolutely no control and no choice in the matter. And you just have to live your life. It's just, all you can do is to prepare for what happens, and, mentally and spiritually. But, continue prepping, and preparing for anything and everything, because we don't know what's coming. We have a very dicey 6 months left here in this administration. And I don't know what's going to happen after that. We could find ourselves in a worse situation afterward. Not because Trump was elected, but just because you saw what happened with the George Floyd thing. Our whole country could be brought down into chaos, just like happened in all the big cities with BLM and Antifa. But if you can't stay on your property for a year or more without leaving, you're not adequately prepared. And if you don't have several years of food and supplies, water, food supplies, and even alternative energy, solar is really only 20 to 30% efficient anyway. Overall, it's not that efficient, but it is a backup system. And if you have a dual fuel generator, that's great until you run out of fuel. Until you run out of propane, you run out of gasoline. What happens then? Solar keeps going. As long as we have the sun, the solar keeps going. Even it may not run everything at the same time, but it will run the essentials. It will keep us some semblance of being civilized. Now, the Amish live without it. The old world Amish live without it. They can, or you can too. It's not comfortable. It's not what you're used to, but you can. But in truth, nobody really knows what it takes to be that prepared to that level for anything, and just be absolutely prepared. And no matter what happens, a world war or the grid down, or CMP or whatever, CME, EMP or CME. I'm getting my letters all mixed up. Okay, I'm not Joe Biden. I don't have dementia. It's imperative to keep going, no matter what. I can put it at a time. You've got to do something. Keep going. And most people can do more than a can. They can do a little bit more than that, but I mean, just if you can't do one can, something's really wrong. I bet you're wasting way more than that much money. So I want to close with the Alcoholics Anonymous prayer is not a scriptural. It's not in scripture. Okay, it's just something that they made up, but it does have some value. It's a good one. My late mother, when she died in 1999, I kind of inherited her coffee mug that has the Serenity Prayer on it. And she was not an alcoholic. She wasn't like alcoholic or anything. Not my adopted mother, my biological mother was. But in this day and time, this right here is such a good attitude to have. You know, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And even after you say that and you feel better, you got to keep plugging. So that's really all I really want to say about this debate. Everybody said just about everything else that can be said, and I'm seeing the chickens come home to roost, as I said, with the left going, well, when you can't hide it anymore, you can't hide it anymore. And they've been hiding it, and they've known it. Don't let them fool you into thinking they're shocked. They're not shocked. They're on the inside. They know what's happening, and they covered up for it. And the thing is, this man has the nuclear codes. He has the ability to start World War III. He has the ability to nuke anybody he wants. And he's a man with dementia who makes him angry and aggressive and confused. And so that is a terrible combination. So keep prepping, keep growing your gardens, keep growing chickens. Now, get some chickens if you can, because I mean, even 4 or 5 hens with no rooster you can't reproduce then. They can't reproduce, but at least they'll give you eggs. As long as they don't die of some kind of weird malfunction like a lot of hatchery stock does. But at the end, I'm going to show you something after talk about this unpleasantness. Now I told you I didn't want to make this doom and gloom. This is not doom and gloom. This is positive. You've got to live your life day to day, and you need to see the beauty in the world, and there's a lot of beauty in this world. I should know. I live in one of the most beautiful places ever. So you've got to see the beauty in the world. But because we talked about some things that weren't so pleasant, were a little bit upsetting, get that peace in your mind. Just find your calm. Sit out there in nature with no screen time, okay? Listen to the birds, listen to the sounds, close your eyes and breathe deep. And I'm going to show you my quilt that I've been working on. I'm not quite finished with it. Almost. I need to quilt the border, and I need to put some, this is made of 35 9-inch blocks, and I haven't, to surround the block, I haven't got a line around each one of them. Some of them got lines on 2 sides because it was getting from one place to another to continue quilting, but I need to do that and then bind it. But I'm going to show you this on the front and the back, and that's not perfect, but you know what? Comparison is the thief of joy. Many people are better Freemasonry quilters than I am. And, but our handwriting is not all the same. Why should our quilting be the same? Bye everybody. Have a great week.